What's up, folks? Man, it's 2-minute warning. It's crunch time. 2 weeks to go, before the fate of our nation is decided. I've been saying this is not this isn't spiritual, or this isn't political for me. This is spiritual. This is a choice between a harvest or a judgment. It really is. And it breaks my heart to see so many people that I have the utmost respect for on the wrong side of this, because this, to me, the choice is very easy. The choice is very easy. On one hand, I know we got a man that's, that can bring a prosperity like we've never had before, and on the other hand, we got, a woman that's going to bring judgment like we've never had before. So it's, to me, and yet I would love to, really focus so much more, on my business, and less on this. But the fact of the matter is I know that if we don't win this one, my business is gone. I know that. I absolutely know that, because our country will receive a judgment if we get this one wrong. It's no doubt in my mind, that God has anointed, someone for this time, and that someone is Mr. Trump. It says straight up in 1 Corinthians 15, 51 to 52, that the trumpet will sound, and in an instant we are changed. There's no coincidence, that the name is Trump. That the name is Trump. It's not a coincidence. And I would really love to see there be a woman president of these days. I really would. But it's got to be the right one. It's got to be a woman that we can, one, really be proud of. I mean, not one that's already violated the oath of office before she's ever taken it. And not only that, I'd also love it to be a woman that's actually not riding the coattails of her husband's success. I mean, it's like, in a way, it's like, okay, Bill Clinton was already president, and now it's like, okay, if you elect her, it's like part of them are like, okay, well, we're kind of electing Bill Clinton again, and it's like, I'd like it to be a really strong woman that's, got her own success without riding the coattails, of her husband's. That's one. This one is spiritual. I absolutely do believe that, I said going into this election, that this is a time where we needed someone that's going to bring this nation, back to God. And because our land has become overwhelmed with all kinds of, sin, that some things people call progress, God still calls sin. And I initially thought that was Ben Carson. I really did, because he seemed like the right guy who had the right heart in the right place. But at the same time, as we saw throughout the process, that Ben Carson he was too nice for politics, and it was seen. And when Ben Carson left, he wasn't going to initially endorse anybody, but then he ultimately did go to Trump, and the reason why he did was because he said that he had gotten a message from God saying, go to Donald Trump. And so that's why he got behind Trump, is because God had told him to. And there is all kinds of prophecies. There are prophecies all over YouTube that have, Donald Trump as God's choice. Now, and I don't believe every prophecy I see. I totally understand that there are all kinds of false prophets. But this prophet here, it's backed up by the Bible. It's really backed up in the Bible. It's backed up in Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45 is significant because the next president is number 45. The next president is number 45. And in Isaiah 45, it talks about a man named Cyrus who was arrogant and foul-mouthed, and his mouth got him in trouble a lot. But yet God chose him because he had a determination like nobody else did. Does that sound like someone we know? But what's really crazy about that was Cyrus gave a command to his people: build a wall. Sounds familiar. And then another chapter is Ezekiel, chapters 22 to 30, and Ezekiel chapter 22 verses 23 to 30, where it literally says that it's dealing with Israel at the time, where it talks about how it has been defiled and so many things. I mean, there's false messages going on. What's being accepted as good is really evil. And verse 30, verse 30 itself, I want to read what verse 30 says. It specifically says, I looked for someone among them who will build up a wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, so I would not have to destroy it. Ooh, that's pretty powerful there. But then it says, but I found no one. So at the time it says he found no one. So let's break that whole line down, because that is powerful. That is speaking to us a lot. Notice how it's, because a lot of times when I start sharing this thing that Trump can't be chosen by God because, well, you know, they question whether his morals and values. Well, anyone who suggests that just simply doesn't know, you know, how God really works. Because let's look at the Bible. You know, like I already mentioned, Cyrus. Peter was a very foul-mouthed person. He couldn't, you know, keep a good sentence. His mouth was very foul. Matthew was a thief. I mean, they feared him. He was a tax collector. Paul the Apostle was a murderer, and Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. But yet these are all people that God chose, because God saw something different. So let's get over this whole, well, he can never use Trump because, you know, whatever. I mean, he can use Trump, and I do believe he is using Trump. Because let's break that verse down one more time. It starts out, says, I looked for someone among them. Now, notice how it doesn't say, I looked for someone godly among them. I looked for someone holy among them. I looked for someone righteous among them. It just says, I looked for someone who was willing to do the job. And the only one we have right now who is willing to stand in that gap and make that wall is Trump. That's what it says. So it doesn't say I'm looking for someone righteous. It just says I'm looking for someone who's willing to do the task. That's what it says. And then at the end it says, so he's looking for someone who will stand on behalf of the land, so I will not have to destroy it. Now, think about this. Vladimir Putin has already said he is going to declare World War III on us if Hillary wins. Now, I know that's going to raise eyebrows and say, well, he must be in alignment with Trump. No, it doesn't mean that. It's just he knows what's going to happen to this country if Hillary wins, and he knows that, you know, it's just bad for the world, you know, for her to win. And the fact is Putin's even said, he has warned us that it will be World War III and he will use nukes. And the way I see that, I don't look at that as a warning from Putin. I really don't. I see that as a warning from God. I see that as a warning from God. See, because God can use anybody. And he is going to use somebody at this time, because this is a very important time. And he's either going to use Trump or he's going to use Putin. That's the bottom line. And I would much rather prefer him to use Trump, because his plan for Trump is for this country to prosper. That's what the prophecy says, and I believe the prophecy because the prophecy is backed up in the Bible. Now, understand that just because this has been prophesied and just because God has anointed him, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go our way. So we can't just assume that it will. See, in the book of Exodus, you know, God had a plan for the people of Egypt to go back to Israel. And then Moses got them out of Israel, and then they got to the desert. But then, you know, when Moses, you know, had to go spend some time with God, the people just lost faith. They totally rejected everything, and they turned the gold into a golden calf, and they made their own God. And look at the judgment God put on them. 40 years in the desert God put on them because they rejected his plan. How about an even better one? God sent his own son, Jesus, as the Messiah. I mean, he was the Messiah. He was God in the flesh, and he was everything. And guess what? The people rejected him too. They put him up on a cross and they crucified him. And then God's judgment came immediately after. Earthquake. So I'm telling you right now, looking at this time right now, I absolutely, because the Bible backs it up, because the prophecy makes sense, I believe this prophecy. I believe Trump is the guy that God has anointed for this time. And if we don't choose the man that God has anointed for this time, we will get judgment. So don't look at that warning from Putin as a warning from Putin. Look at it as a warning from God. And let's get this thing right on November 8th. God bless you all. Bye-bye.